Might not be that brief. Okay, so I think the danger is that what we seem to be veering towards is LTNs as the only solution, which I think is a slightly dangerous territory to get into, simply because there are quite significant effects of large network effects of traffic displacement. And so it's all very nice if you live on a filtered road, but if you live on a road like Croxted Road, which Margie brought up right at the beginning, I think quite rightly, which has seen quite significant increases in congestion and pollution for longer hours during the day, with all the negative health impacts that will engender. Obviously, that's possibly not a great solution in that area. And actually, the problem is that if you look at somewhere, I'm just taking Dulwich as an example because I know it quite well, but it's slightly tricky because it doesn't have great public transport. It has extremely high, I think the highest car ownership in the borough. There's a kind of term time traffic generating industry in the form of highly prestigious and large catchment unlimited schools, and people are driving there partly because the public transport is bad, and then it's surrounded by hills. So it's an extremely difficult place to kind of centre, a great big cycling area. So the question for me is that given that each LTN will have different impacts and different effects and will, according to its fundamentals, have a different chance of success, we need to look at things that will actually bring down car ownership and use. And the fact is that Southwark is about to fail to meet its targets for car ownership reduction in the borough. We have LIP targets, Catherine mentioned them earlier, we're not going to make them. And so unless we have a sort of holistic strategy that is predicated on actually tackling car ownership, which is the greatest predictor of car use, we really risk being in a situation where essentially we're just kind of pushing traffic and pollution around, and we're not dealing with the substantive problem. So, one thing that I know we've spoken about before is the enormous amount of public realm that is taken up by parking. And to my mind, one of the most important things that we can do is not just consider things like CPZs, but actually go much further than that and think about a community curbside zone rather than a community parking zone. So you can talk to residents about what they want to see on their street. Maybe there's a situation where we kind of have a quid pro quo where residents will say, okay, look, we want a filtered street, but we're willing to phase out our parking, our on-street parking as we go. Because the cities that have made the biggest impact in terms of, pollution, active travel and so on, are actually tackling parking as a major issue. You look at Paris, they've just designated an inner city zone which will essentially be car free. There are some wrinkles there because they're still allowing residents, access to that bit of the city. But unless we actually grapple with the fact that essentially so much of the public realm is dominated by car storage and cars that are just simply not used for 99% of the day, we're not going to get to grips with this issue in a sort of serious way. And maybe the calculation is that, the displacement routes that are experiencing higher traffic volumes, which mean greater harm, greater care size, more mentally unwell people, physically unwell people, are collateral damage. That doesn't seem to be a very satisfactory way to be, and we have to think of a much more holistic solution that recognises that this is actually a complex problem. But we cannot do this accepting current levels of car ownership and car use, because it's just sort of tinkering around at the margins. And I would urge the next administration, the next committee, to really grapple with this. Sarah told us a lovely anecdote about one of her constituents' experiences of an LTN. I will tell you another who said, it's really great to have an LTN because I can park my car more easily, and it's just great. So some people want an LTN because it enhances the car owning and car driving experience. Other people want them for other reasons, because they are genuinely switching modes and making everything healthier and happier. But there's a lot of anecdata here, and we just need to deal with the substantive issue, which is a landscape dominated by cars, dominated by use. And, it seems crazy to me that we close roads where people have 2, 3, 4 cars.